For years, the world's eyes have been locked on Elon Musk, the visionary billionaire, tech disruptor, and headline magnet. Whether launching rockets, building AI, or tweeting memes at midnight, Musk has made it nearly impossible to look away. But while Elon shaped the future of humanity, there was someone quietly growing up behind the scenes. Someone rarely seen, barely heard from, yet carrying a name that sparked curiosity across the globe. X. X Musk, or simply X, as his family calls him, was born into a world of wonder, science, and expectation. From the moment his name hit the news, speculation surrounded him. What kind of childhood does the son of Elon Musk have? Is he being raised by engineers or philosophers? Does he even know how normal kids live? Elon, famously private about his children, kept X out of the spotlight for most of his early years. Occasionally, glimpses of him would surface, an adorable moment captured on a live stream, a blurry photo at a Tesla event, or a rare mention in an interview. But beyond that, the public knew very little about the boy who would one day inherit not just a fortune, but a world shaped by his father's imagination. And that was exactly how Elon wanted it. "You can't build something meaningful if the world is constantly watching," he once told a friend. "Let him grow. Let him choose who he wants to be, without the weight of my name." But as X grew, something unusual began to happen. Quietly, almost imperceptibly, he started displaying signs of brilliance. Brilliance not in the way people expected, but in ways no one could have predicted. At just 5 years old, he reportedly dismantled a robotic dog and rebuilt it to respond to his voice alone. At 6, he could recite complex mathematical sequences, not just by memory, but by explaining the logic behind them. But none of these talents were shared with the public. Elon and Grimes, his mother, agreed to keep X's development away from headlines, believing the world would interfere before it understood him. By the time he was 8, X had mastered several languages, including coding languages. But even more intriguing than his intellect was his intuition, his ability to connect dots no one else saw. He would ask questions that baffled even SpaceX engineers. One of them, during a visit to a launch site, reportedly said, "That kid doesn't think like a child. He thinks like someone who's already built the future and came back to check on it." Still, none of this reached the public. Not yet. X's life remained intentionally low-key. He didn't attend traditional school. Instead, he was part of an experimental program designed by Elon himself, blending physics, philosophy, creativity, and problem-solving in a curriculum that most adults would find overwhelming. But to X, it was simply how things made sense. Then, something unexpected happened. It began with a sound. Grimes, herself a boundary-pushing artist, noticed X humming a tune in the kitchen one afternoon. It wasn't the usual random noise kids make. It was structured, haunting, beautiful. She paused, listened, and realized he wasn't humming something he'd heard before. He was creating it. "What song is that, X?" she asked gently. He looked up with wide eyes and simply said, "I don't know. I just hear in my head." That night, Grimes recorded X softly singing and layering sounds using a tablet. What she heard shook her. It wasn't just music. It was emotion, intelligence, and complexity, wrapped in something transcendent, something extraordinary. She showed the audio clip to Elon. He didn't say a word at first. Just sat there, eyes closed, listening. When the track ended, he looked at her and said, "The world isn't ready for this, but one day it will be." And that day, it turns out, was coming faster than anyone expected. Rumors began to swirl in late spring. Something about X working on a secret project, something artistic, maybe even otherworldly. Most dismissed it as internet gossip. Others assumed it was a marketing stunt. After all, Elon had pulled off some of the wildest PR moves of the century. But what no one knew was that X had been quietly composing an entire sonic experience, a blend of sound, science, and storytelling that defied all genre. Something that wasn't just music. It was a window into a mind unlike any other, and the world was about to hear it. For months, X had been working in secret, building something that went far beyond music. He didn't call it an album. He didn't even call it art. To him, it was simply a way to translate what he felt into something others could hear. a way to express the complexity of thought and emotion that his young mind struggled to communicate with words. He called it the echo signal. No one knew where the name came from, not even Grimes, who had watched the project grow from a few haunting melodies into a full-scale, immersive experience. The echo signal wasn't just audio. It included visual elements, coded light displays, artificial harmonics, and sound waves manipulated with mathematical precision. It was, in many ways, a neural reflection of X himself. But now, the question had become, should the world see it? Elon, always protective, was hesitant. He respected X's creative mind more than anyone, but he also knew the world. He knew how harsh, cynical, and dismissive people could be, especially when they didn't understand what they were witnessing. "We don't have to share it," he told X one night, during a quiet moment on the balcony of their Los Angeles home. "What you've made, it's brilliant, but brilliance scares people." X didn't respond at first. He just stared up at the sky, the same sky his father had sent rockets through. Then he said softly, "If I don't show them, how will they know what's possible?" That's when Elon realized something profound. This wasn't about ambition. X didn't want fame. He didn't even care if people liked his creation. He just wanted to share a vision, to prove that a new form of human expression was possible, even if it came from someone not yet 10 years old. The decision was made. X would debut the echo signal to the world. But nothing about the launch would be traditional. Instead of releasing it through streaming platforms or media channels, X designed a virtual gallery, a fully immersive digital space that users could explore freely. Every corner held a piece of the experience, a sound, a light pattern, a message. Each visitor would move through the gallery differently, creating a personalized version of the journey. There were no instructions, no labels, just sensation. Elon funded the back-end infrastructure, but the design, interface, and concept were entirely X's. He coded it himself. Grimes curated the ambient visuals. And the rest? Left untouched. The date was set Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. In the days leading up to it, Elon teased the event with a single tweet. "This Friday, you'll see something not even I expected. My son, X, has created a signal worth hearing." The internet exploded. Was it AI-generated art? A Tesla launch in disguise? A deep-fake experiment? Speculation ran wild. Conspiracy theories flew. Fans, critics, musicians, tech bloggers, all locked in. Then Friday came. At 8 p.m. sharp, the link went live. TheChoSignal.com. The homepage was black. A single white prompt blinked. Enter and listen. Let the signal guide you. No names, no branding, no logos. Within the first 10 minutes, over 3 million people logged in. By midnight, the number had doubled. What they experienced, no one could fully describe. Some said it felt like walking through someone's soul. Others called it alien, divine, terrifying, beautiful. One user tweeted, "I don't know what I just heard, but I cried. For no reason. And I can't stop." Major artists responded. Bjork called it pure future. Hans Zimmer said it was not music, it was architecture. Even critics who wanted to dismiss it found themselves strangely moved. And then the real twist came. The system was built to respond to emotion. As users moved to the gallery, their responses via mouse movement, heart rate, if using smartwatches, and reaction times would alter the sound. No two experiences were the same. X had created an emotionally reactive sound space. People weren't just listening to the echo signal. They were becoming part of it. The world, stunned, finally asked, "Who is X?" For the first time, X agreed to speak. In a pre-recorded video, simple, raw, honest, he looked directly into the camera. "Hi, I'm X. I don't really like talking in public, but I wanted to say thank you for listening. I made this because sometimes I feel things I can't say out loud. So I made sounds instead. You don't have to understand it. Just feel it. And if it makes you feel something real, then I guess we're not so different after all." That was all. The video ended. The world, again, was silent. But something had shifted. A collective emotional wave spread online. People began to share their personal stories, traumas, and healing moments, all sparked by what X had created. Therapists began referencing the echo signal in mental health sessions. Neuroscientists requested access to its code. Musicians wanted to collaborate. The Vatican even issued a statement calling the project a glimpse of divine inspiration through a child's mind. The challenge had been real, to show the world something deeply personal and risk being misunderstood or ridiculed. But X had done it, and instead of fear or rejection, the world had listened. But what X didn't know, what no one knew, was that this was only the beginning. The full depth of his talent had yet to be seen. And Elon Musk, watching quietly from the sidelines, knew one thing for certain. His son was about to change everything. In the days following the release of the Echo signal, the world didn't return to normal. It evolved. For a moment, something changed in the way people interacted with technology, with sound, and even with each other. The project sparked conversations not only about creativity, but about emotion, consciousness, and the untapped potential of young minds. But for X, everything was suddenly different. He had spent his life in the shadows of innovation, protected by silence and anonymity. Now, without ever setting foot on a stage or granting a live interview, he had become a global phenomenon, not as Elon Musk's son, but as X, the mysterious prodigy who somehow made millions of people cry with sound. And at just 10 years old, X was beginning to feel something entirely new, the pressure being seen. His inbox, once empty, now flooded with offers from record labels, AI developers, universities, film directors, even NASA. They wanted a partner to feature, to understand his process. Some offered him blank checks. Others dangled fame and creative freedom. But none of that seemed to impress him. Instead, X became quieter. He stopped working on new soundscapes, stopped coding for weeks, even avoided his usual conversations with Grimes. He wasn't sad, just still, like his mind was trying to catch up to everything that had happened. One afternoon, Elon found him alone in the observatory room of their house, staring at Jupiter through a telescope, the same room where Elon had once dreamed of colonizing Mars. "You all right?" Elon asked, careful not to push. X nodded. Then, after a pause, said, "People want me to keep creating. But what if I already said everything I needed to say?" Elon smiled gently. "That's not how creativity works. Kiddo, you don't run out. You just evolve. But you don't owe anyone anything. Remember that." X took those words to heart. Over the next few weeks, he retreated from the spotlight, declining every interview, every opportunity. The internet speculated wildly. Some said he was working on a new project. Others worried that he had been overwhelmed and shut down. But in reality, something entirely different was happening. X wasn't retreating. He was listening. He read thousands of letters and emails sent by people from every continent. Messages from war survivors, from young people struggling with mental health, from artists who had given up on their craft until the echo signal reignited something inside them. Stories of healing, of rebirth, of connection. And slowly, X began to understand. His work wasn't just heard, it was felt. Deeply, this realization began to change him. He started speaking more during family dinners, asking new kind of questions. Not about physics or sound engineering, but about people, about pain, about empathy. He began journaling quietly, writing poetry, painting digital images that express emotion through abstract color. Grimes noticed at first. "You're not just an engineer anymore," she said softly one night. "You're becoming an artist, a healer." X didn't quite understand what that meant, but something in his chest said she was right. And then, almost as if drawn by instinct, X began working again, but this time not with code or sound waves. He started designing a place, not a virtual gallery like before, but a real physical space, a sanctuary. He called it the listening room. It would be an acoustic dome, powered by renewable energy, designed to echo and absorb the emotions of those inside. No phones allowed, no talking, just a space where people could sit, hear sound shaped by their presence, and process whatever they were carrying. The sound would change based on heart rate, breath, and silence. Elon, initially puzzled, eventually supported the project fully. He offered land near a Tesla research site in Nevada. Engineers volunteered to help build it. Grimes helped shape the sonic architecture. And within 3 months, the dome was complete. Its opening was quiet. No press, no influencers, no live stream. Just a handwritten sign on the door. Come in. Let the silence speak. And they did. Over the next few weeks, thousands came. Some stayed for minutes. Others, hours. They cried. They meditated. Some left notes tucked into the walls. Others simply smiled for the first time in years. And X, he sat in the background, watching, listening, learning. He realized that his gift wasn't just about music or sound. It was about presence, about holding space for others to feel what they needed to feel, to connect with something bigger than themselves. Word of the listening room spread slowly but powerfully. A senator came in disguise. A famous singer called it the most spiritual place I've ever been. A neuroscientist described the experience as quantum empathy. X had transformed again, from hidden prodigy to global phenomenon, and now to quiet visionary. But even as the world celebrated him, he kept one secret to himself. A second project. Something more ambitious. Something more intimate. Not sound. Not space. But story. A message. A myth. A warning. A promise. And when it would finally be revealed, the world wouldn't just feel something extraordinary. It would be changed forever. Success, as Elon Musk always warned, is never just applause. It's a double-edged blade, capable of elevating or cutting deep. And now, his son X is learning that firsthand. While the listening room quietly became a global phenomenon, drawing thinkers, artists, spiritual seekers, and everyday people in Nevada, a very different storm was brewing online. Media outlets, one celebratory, began shifting tone. What had started, as all began to curdle into suspicion. Is Elon Musk's son being groomed as a tech messiah? Genius or hype? Curious case facts. Who's really behind the echo signal? The headlines came fast and loud. Talk shows debated his influence. Social media split into factions. Some calling X a newcomer, others accusing Elon of orchestrating a calculated cult of personality. It didn't help that X refused to play the game. He wouldn't give interviews, wouldn't attend award shows, wouldn't smile at magazine covers. A mystery that made him intriguing now made him threatening to some. And people fear what they don't understand. Things escalated when an anonymous source leaked internal blueprints of the Listening Room project. The leak falsely claimed the dome was collecting biometric data to feed into a new AI model Elon was secretly building. A narrative that spread like wildfire, accusations of manipulation and surveillance filled the headlines. Protesters even gathered outside the dome, chanting slogans about privacy and power. X was devastated, not by the anger, but by the misunderstanding. He hadn't created the listening room for data. He didn't care about algorithms or optimization. He cared about silence, about feeling, about human experience. Twisted into something dark. One night, after hours, X returned to the dome alone. He sat in the center, where the resonance was deepest. No lights, no sounds, just darkness. Grimes found him there 2 hours later, curled up on the floor. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. She sat beside him and said, "What only mother could. You didn't choose the world's reaction. You only chose to share what was real. And real things always get tested." The next morning, Elon received a letter from X. A short one. "I want to disappear for a while. Not because I'm scared, but because I want to think. I'll be safe. I just need space." And with that, X was gone. He left behind no GPS location, no digital footprint, only a note for the dome's caretakers. Keep it open. Let it keep listening. Rumors spread. Was X abducted? Hidden away by Elon? Living in a monastery? Twitter trended daily with the hashtag where is X? But the Musk family remained silent. What most people didn't know was that X had traveled far north, to a remote cabin in Iceland. one of the only places on Earth where he could walk in peace, unrecognized. Just another child wrapped in winter gear. There, in the silence of nature, he began to write. For the first time, he put thoughts to paper. Not equations, not sound, but narrative. He started crafting a story, piece by piece, page by page. A myth about a boy born in a time of noise, who carried a sound inside him no one else could hear. A sound that could heal or destroy. The boy in the story had to choose. Hide the sound and live in peace, or let it out and face the fire. X called the story The Quiet Signal, and with each chapter, he poured in everything. The joy of being understood, the pain of being judged, the longing to simply be without expectation. Back in the U.S., something unexpected was happening, despite his disappearance. The world didn't forget it. On the contrary, it reflected. People returned to the listening room, not with skepticism, but with reverence. Visitors began leaving written reflections. Hundreds, thousands. One message read, he disappeared, but he left us with something better than himself. He left us with ourselves. Artists performed spontaneous concerts inside the dome. Therapists brought trauma survivors. Grieving parents came to sit in the quiet. Even the harshest critics slowly grew silent as they witnessed a genuine healing happening in these current worlds. Then, months later, without warning, a new page appeared on RitualSignal.com. Black background, white text. If you're still listening, I'm still here. Below it, a countdown. 10 days. The internet froze. Speculation surged again. But this time it was different. Less aggressive. More patient. People weren't waiting for it. They were waiting for the presence. The countdown ended. X appeared on screen once more. A little taller now. His voice steadier. Behind him, firelight. I left to remember who I was before. I came back because I realized something. The world doesn't need a genius. It needs space. Space to feel. To listen. To pause. And maybe I was never supposed to be seen. Maybe I was just supposed to stay. He smiled gently. So here it is, my last gift. A story. About sound. About choice. About you. It's not a song. It's not a game. It's a mirror. A download link appeared. The Quiet Signal. Interactive story experience. And within minutes, millions of people crossed the world to begin. What followed would not just redefine interactive storytelling. It would reveal the soul of a generation. And the boy behind it all, he was already walking forward, quietly, ready for what came next. The night The Quiet Signal was released, something subtle but profound swept across the world. It wasn't the kind of event that caused fireworks or trending chaos. It wasn't a viral dance or a billionaire's PR stunt. It was stillness, a collective pause. People from every corner of the planet sat at home with headphones on, eyes closed, screens dimmed, alone but together, experiencing something that didn't quite feel like a story and didn't quite feel like software either. The Quiet Signal was exactly what X had promised. A mirror. When users launched the experience, they were met with an interface unlike anything they'd seen before. There were no menus, no instructions, just a pulse, soft and rhythmic, inviting them to breathe in sync. From there, the story unfolded, but not as text or video. It unfolded as emotion. Each participant heard a different voice, saw a different light, followed a unique path based on their responses. Some were led into forests of sound, where memories whispered back to them. Others encountered silence, so thick they wept. Many reported that they had to face moments in their past, regrets, doubts, hopes long buried, rendered through sound and shifting visual forms. It wasn't therapy. It wasn't art. It was soul recognition. The internet began to fill with testimonials. I thought it was just a story, but I ended up crying for my father, who died 5 years ago. I hadn't cried since. It showed me something I'd been running from, and somehow it made me feel safe again. I didn't think a 10-year-old could teach me something about myself, but here I am. For the first time, digital technology wasn't pulling people away from themselves. It was guiding them back. The experience sparked something entirely new. The quiet movement. People began hosting community listening circles, where they would experience the quiet signal together, then simply sit in silence afterward or talk openly about what surfaced. Churches, synagogues, temples, even corporate retreats requested use licenses, not to monetize, but to heal. The Dome in Nevada became a pilgrimage site, but it wasn't treated like a museum. It was sacred space, a rare public place where no one took photos, no one performed. They just listened, and all of this, X watched quietly. He never claimed ownership, never posted about numbers, downloads, or awards. He refused TED Talks, magazine covers, even a Nobel nomination that his team never even told him about. Instead, he lived simply, traveling with Grimes to quiet corners of the world, reading ancient texts, studying indigenous philosophies, watching the stars. One day, a journalist somehow tracked him down, not for an expose, but for a question. Just one. They found X at a coastal village in South Africa, barefoot in the sand, watching the waves. The journalist approached, careful, and asked, "Do you realize what you started?" X looked at the horizon for a long moment, then replied, "I didn't start it. I just gave it a place to land." Those would be the last public words he'd ever be recorded saying, because after that, X truly stepped away, not out of rebellion or fear, but in full trust that the signal was no longer his. It belonged to the world now. Years passed. The quiet movement grew organically. Artists began to create in its spirit. Educators rethought how emotion and empathy were taught in schools. Even engineers and scientists began referring to emotional architecture as a valid design principle. But the most beautiful shift? People began to truly listen to one another again. Parents listened to children. Strangers paused before interrupting. Schools introduced quiet rooms. Corporations scheduled time for a non-productive presence. Moments where employees could just be. Humanity somehow slowed down, and in that slowing down deepened. Elon Musk, in a rare interview years later, was asked what legacy he hoped to leave. He laughed and said, "Honestly, I used to think it was Mars, then AI. Now, I think it might be the boy who taught the world how to be quiet." As for the quiet signal, it was never updated, never modified. Its code remained untouched, preserved like a sacred artifact, because everyone seemed to understand instinctively. It was complete, and somewhere, no one knows exactly where, a young man named X walks through forests and cities, across deserts and rivers. He lived without fanfare, without press, without followers, and yet his quiet signal continues to echo through millions of lives, not because it was loud, not because it was flawless, but because it was true. And sometimes that's all the world really needs.